Hello, my name is Chris Rodriguez, Director of the ABLE National Resource Center, and this is the hashtag Able to Save webinar series, Investments, ABLE, and Financial Literacy. The webinar is brought to you today as part of the ABLE National Resource Center and is sponsored by our friends at Fifth Third Bank. The audio for today's webinar is being broadcast through your computer. Please make sure your speakers are turned on or your headphones are plugged in. If you can control the audio broadcast via the audio broadcast panel, If you accidentally close the panel, you can reopen it by going to the Communicate menu at the top of the screen and choosing Join Audio Broadcast. If you do not have sound capabilities on your computer or would prefer to listen by phone, the dial-in information is on the right hand of your screen. Real-time captioning is provided during this webinar. The captions can be found in Media Viewer Panel, which appears in the lower right-hand corner of the webinar platform. If you want to make the Media Viewer panel larger, you can minimize other panels such as the Chat, Q&A, and/or Participants windows. Please use the Q&A box to submit any questions you have during the webinar, and we will direct those questions accordingly during the Q&A portion of the webinar. If you are listening by phone and not logged into the webinar, you may also ask questions by emailing questions to KAUCHENBACH@ndi-inc.org. Also note that this webinar is being recorded and the materials will be placed on the ABLE National Resource Center website. If you experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, please use the chat box to send a message to the host NDI admin, or you may also email KAUCHENBACH@ndi-inc.org. The presenters today will be myself, Chris Rodriguez, Director of the ABLE National Resource Center, along with Michael Rausch, the Director of the Real Economic Impact Network here at the National Disability Institute. We also have a list of expert panelists consisting of J.J. Hanley, the Director of the Illinois ABLE Program, Ben Mendelson, the Vice President of Fifth Third Bank and Senior Product Manager of the ABLE Accounts, and Nate Woods, Retail Product Manager, ABLE Checking, Fifth Third Bank. Today's agenda includes a brief explanation of the ABLE National Resource Center, a brief description of the hashtag Able to Save campaign, our ABLE basics, and then we'll go into the bulk of the presentation, which consists both of looking at ABLE savings and investments and what that means, and then talking about what financial education versus financial capabilities versus financial well-being are, and how that can be used, how those skills can be used and applied to helping somebody realize the full capacity of the benefits of having an ABLE account. After that, we'll turn it over to our guest panelists with some Q&A. Okay, let's get started. The ABLE National Resource Center. The ABLE National Resource Center is a collaborative whose supporters share the goal of accelerating the design and availability of ABLE accounts for the benefit of individuals with disabilities and their families. We bring together the investment, support, and resources of the country's largest and most influential national disability organizations. We encourage you to go visit our website where we house the majority of our ABLE-related materials, including the ability to see where your state is with respect to building their ABLE program, tools to compare ABLE programs from one another, videos that talk about different aspects about ABLE accounts and ABLE programs, and much, much more information. You can visit the website at www.ablenrc.org. So now I'd just briefly like to talk about our hashtag Able to Save campaign. And it is a month-long marketing and informational campaign taking place throughout this month, the month of August, This national campaign is spearheaded by the ABLE National Resource Center in collaboration with the Center's over 25 national disability organizational members, state ABLE programs, financial institutions, and other ABLE-related stakeholders. The hashtag #AbleToSave campaign will strive to blanket the country with widespread information concerning all things related to ABLE, with the aim to significantly accelerating the opening of ABLE accounts by eligible individuals with disabilities and their families. The primary goal of the #AbleToSave campaign is to increase awareness and education about ABLE accounts, and again to accelerate the opening of these ABLE accounts nationwide, both in the short term and in the long term. The hashtag #AbleToSave campaign will take place again throughout the entire month of August, so we're about a little over halfway done. And we broke down the campaign into 5 individual weeks of education, information, and marketing. Each week is focused on a different aspect of ABLE, all with the aim to provide potential ABLE account owners and their families with comprehensive education and motivation so that they feel comfortable enrolling in an ABLE program of their choice. Below you see the different categories that we've broken up the campaign into, including basic overview of ABLE accounts and programs, understanding what eligibility means, understanding what exactly those funds can be used for the purchasing of qualified disability expenses, financial literacy, which is the week that we're currently in, and then next week we'll concentrate on enrollment, which will include what does enrollment actually look like when somebody's getting enrolled into a program, and how to differentiate between one ABLE program over a different ABLE program so that the ABLE account owner can choose a program that best fits their needs. This campaign is national in scale and will utilize and is utilizing a diverse set of tools in order to maximize our reach. These tools include, but are not limited to, our social media capabilities, national webinars such as this one, short videos, Twitter chats, virtual town halls, email blasts, and the utilization of the Center's website. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Before we dive into this week's topic, we want to just very quickly go over some ABLE basics in case some folks are new to the idea of ABLE, or maybe you've heard of it but don't really know the details to a great extent. So, what is ABLE? ABLE is the Stephen Beck Jr. Achieving a Better Life Experience Act, and it amends the federal tax code to add Section 529A. And what this basically does is it creates a new option for eligible people with disabilities to save money in a tax-exempt account that may be used for qualified disability expenses while still allowing that individual to keep eligibility for their federally means-tested benefits, such as Medicaid and Supplemental Security or Income, or SSI. So let's very quickly go over some basic characteristics of ABLE accounts and ABLE programs. And it's important to note that the things that we're going to be discussing on this slide are consistent throughout all ABLE programs, no matter if you're enrolled, say, in the Ohio program or the Virginia program or the Oregon program. These characteristics that I'm about to talk about real quickly, these are going to be consistent across all programs because they're founded in the federal law. So, there are eligibility requirements related to opening an ABLE account that speak to the age in which the individual first experienced his or her disability and related to the severity of such disability. So we go into greater detail about this. We went into greater detail about this in week 2 of the campaign, of which all the videos that explain eligibility in greater detail are housed on our website. Additionally, an eligible individual is not obligated to enroll in their state of residence. So it's important to know that just because your state may not have launched an ABLE program does not mean that provided that you meet the requirements to open an ABLE account that you cannot have an ABLE account. So as an example, my brother lives in Texas, and Texas has yet to open up an ABLE account, an ABLE program. However, they are working on it and should be launching one soon. That doesn't mean that he can't open up an ABLE account in a different state that has already launched an ABLE account and that is accepting eligible individuals nationwide, of which is the majority of the programs that have launched are enrolling nationwide. It's also important to note that the designated beneficiary is the account owner. That means that the person with a disability is the account owner. They are also the designated beneficiary, obviously. But if that individual either doesn't have the capacity or has been deemed not to have the capacity to oversee the account, or if they choose to need some help or want some help or just choose not to oversee the account, there's 3 other types of individuals that can have what's called signature authority, and basically that can exercise authority over the account on behalf of the person with a disability. And that is a parent of a minor, a person with guardianship, or a person with power of attorney. Those 3 types of individuals could have signature authority or exercise oversight over the account on behalf of the account owner, who is the designated beneficiary, who is the person with a disability. Also, funds in the account may be used for what's called qualified disability-related expenses, and we went over last week what exactly those qualified disability-related expenses can be. Additionally, assets in and distributions for qualified disability-related expenses will be disregarded or given special treatment when determining eligibility for most federal means-tested benefits, including Social Security benefits and Medicaid. So that's one of the more powerful aspects about ABLE, because until ABLE accounts, by and large, people with disabilities who were part of programs, means-tested programs such as Medicaid, were not allowed to save money for their futures for fear of losing their eligibility for these supports and services that they so often rely on to exercise their independence. Additionally, multiple individuals may contribute into an individual's ABLE account. That includes friends, family, the account owner themselves, perhaps as a result of earning money through employment. All those types of individuals, including others, can contribute into somebody's ABLE account. However, all those contributions combined are not allowed to exceed $14,000 in any given tax year. So that's between January 1st and December 31st. All contributions combined from all contributors into an individual's ABLE account are only allowed to be no more than $14,000. Okay, so now that we've kind of very quickly talked about some basic characteristics, of which there are more, and I would encourage folks to check out the website for greater detail on those, we want to move on to this week's primary discussion, and that's talking about ABLE investments and ABLE savings accounts. What does it look like? What do these actually look like in practice? So, ABLE accounts allow, again, qualified individuals with disabilities the opportunity to save and invest for their future without impacting their eligibility for federally means-tested public benefits. So it's important to note that the funds contributed into a person's ABLE account are actually, in most circumstances, invested. So what does that mean? What is an investment account? Well, funds in investment accounts have a greater risk of losing money, but also have a greater opportunity to grow by earning a higher rate of return as compared to a savings account. Funds in investment accounts are put into things like stocks and bonds. As compared to savings account. What is a savings account? So, funds in a savings account are generally put into the safest products where the money can be easily accessed and has the least risk of losing money. Funds in savings accounts also have the least opportunity to grow by earning a low rate of return compared to an investment account. So that's important to note, because you will, in all likelihood, when enrolling in an ABLE account, be asked to choose where you would like your money invested. So, choosing the right investment option. So these are just suggestions on things that you might want to take into consideration when choosing one investment option over another, and things that you're going to want to try and figure out when choosing the right one for you. So, how to decide how to allocate your ABLE funds. We recommend that you first identify your goals for your ABLE account. Once you've done that, then try to understand what risk is and how much risk you are comfortable with. So what exactly does risk mean when we're talking about investment accounts and where to put your ABLE funds? Well, risk is the possibility an investment will lose value in exchange for gaining value over time, right? Okay, so after you kind of understand the goals for your particular ABLE account, which are going to differ from one ABLE account owner to another, and then you understand what risk is, you're going to want to determine your time frame or how different risk levels interact with your time frame. So as an example, there's short-term financial goals that you may have. This might consist of everyday expenses or an emergency fund. You might want to use ABLE funds as a transactional account to remain eligible for federal benefits. So there's short-term goals. They're short to medium term. So these might include expenses that would require you to save for maybe 3 to 7 years, like using an ABLE account to save for down payment on a car or education purposes or job training expenses. Or in combination, you might want to be saving for a long-term investment. So this may mean saving for your needs for 7 years or longer. So this individual might be using ABLE to save for long-term financial goals, such as long-term care or purchasing a home. So these are different things you're going to want to identify and things that you may want to take in consideration when choosing which investment option best meets your needs. So these are things you're going to think about. And then once you have those, you need to apply them, or we recommend you apply them to understanding what investment options are available to you. And it's important to note that all investments have some amount of risk. As one's time frame increases, one can take on more risk in investing as the investments have more time to recover from any possible losses. Also, as risk increases, the possibility for a greater return increases, as does the possibility also to lose some of or all of the money invested. So there is, as we said earlier, there's risk associated with investments. So the next slide just talks about the benefits of starting to save early, and this is a statistic that many of us have seen in the past that goes over an example of the benefits that are associated with investing earlier, and how the earlier you can invest and the longer time that you keep your money in that investment vehicle, the greater extent in which you can build money over a longer period of time. Okay, so let's talk about some of the terms that you might experience when enrolling in an ABLE program, when enrolling specifically in the investment side of an ABLE program, of which you will encounter when enrolling. So let's talk about what exactly is an FDIC-insured account versus stocks versus bonds. Well, in order to make the best decisions on how to invest, it's important that account owners understand what their investment options are and the risk associated with each of those investment choices, right? So just as a principle, you might hear the term inflation. What does that mean? Well, it means the principle that money loses value over time, mainly because things become more expensive, and why savings is not enough to meet medium-term and long-term goals sometimes. Investing provides the opportunity to potentially earn enough to outpace inflation, but with the obvious risk of possibly losing money in exchange. All right, so let's now look at what exactly some of the investment types of choices we might encounter when opening an ABLE account. So there's things called FDIC-insured accounts, and we can talk about those a little bit with our experts later, but what they basically are, they accompany almost no risk, but at the same time they have very low return. Funds are guaranteed by the government, but may not provide enough return to outpace inflation, but you cannot lose money deposited. So these are very, very safe places to put your money in terms of making sure that you're not going to lose it, but at the same time, they're so safe that they have extremely low returns, right? There's also bonds. Bonds carry more risk than FDIC-insured accounts. They're not guaranteed. They generally provide a greater potential for return than FDIC-insured accounts and generally predictable income streams, but generally less returns compared to stocks. They also may generate returns to outpace inflation, but they also may lose value, so that's important to note. Then we turn to stocks. Stocks, they carry the most risk as compared to an FDIC-insured account or bonds. They provide the greatest potential for return, but may lose value and may fluctuate in value the most out of those three different options. Okay, ABLE-related options. So, ABLE investment options contain a diversified mix of stocks and bonds to to fit various risk profiles so that individuals can choose the options that best fit their goals. And those include, in many programs, FDIC insured, which we just reviewed, are the safest in terms of not losing any of your initial investment into the accounts. Conservative asset allocations invest predominantly in bonds. Moderate asset allocations invest in a mix of stocks and bonds. Aggressive asset allocations invest predominantly in stocks. So those are different avenues that you can take based on your particular level or comfort of risk, of which you might want to take into consideration, again, what you hope to purchase with your ABLE funds and the time in which you have to purchase those particular disability-related expenses. Again, many ABLE programs also offer an FDI insured option, and we're going to talk about that a little later in greater detail. Okay, I mentioned in the previous slide what we're calling personal risk profile, and what exactly does that mean? Well, a personal risk profile is defined by how willing a person is to potentially lose money in exchange for potentially greater investment returns, right? So factors in defining your actual risk profile may include personal comfort with investment risk, goals for using the money, investment time frame, and current financial situation. So these are all different characteristics that a person might want to take into consideration when determining how comfortable they are with the level of risk that is associated with their choice and investment options that they'll have when opening an ABLE account and throughout the duration of maintaining their ABLE account. Examples: a portfolio invested in cash, savings accounts, and money market accounts has the least risk and least potential to earn potential returns. So there's an upside in terms of a minimum in terms of losing funds, but also you're probably not going to earn a lot on your investment either. A portfolio invested in stocks, bonds, and cash has a moderate risk profile and carry a moderate potential to earn returns. A portfolio invested completely in stocks has an aggressive risk profile and has the greatest potential to earn returns, but also you could have the greatest terms of fluctuation in both directions. Investing in the stock market over time generally earns a significant return. However, the market is volatile and not recommended for short-term needs. It's also important to note that when bond prices decrease, their yield or amount they earn increases. So these are all different things that somebody would want to take into consideration when choosing between one investment option provided through your ABLE program or another investment option provided through your ABLE program. Diversification in investments. So, diversification manages risk by mixing a wide variety of different investment types into a portfolio under the theory that a portfolio made of a variety of different types of investment choices will have less risk and greater return than any one investment choice. So this is just a matter of combining different types of investment vehicles that are associated with different types of risk together so that you can try and minimize loss while maximizing returns. ABLE programs provide a combination of fund allocations in diverse investment portfolios, such as conservative asset allocations, moderate asset allocations, and again, aggressive asset allocations. Investment objectives may change. So like I said, most individuals that will be getting and enrolling into ABLE programs will be asked to choose from a variety of different investment options. But it's important to note that as perhaps your financial goals change or your risk profile changes as maybe you get older or you have different considerations, ABLE accounts, ABLE programs do allow you to change your investment direction up to 2 times per tax year. So it's important to note that just because you choose one type of investment option when you open up the account does not mean that you have to stay in that particular investment vehicle for the remainder of the time that you have the account. You can change it again up to 2 times a year. Okay, so it's also important to note that there are fees related to ABLE investments, right? So there are two types of fees that are typically associated with having an ABLE account or being an ABLE account owner, and that is account-based fees, so fees for opening an account, account maintenance fees, but then there's asset-based fees. These fees are charged by the investment manager to pay for fund expenses. And it's important to understand these fees because fees can significantly impact investment returns, especially in smaller accounts. So it's important to understand those things. Also, one of the great benefits of having an ABLE account is the fact that the money in an ABLE account while it's deposited after taxes, it does grow tax-free provided that it's used for qualified disability-related expenses. Okay. So, I know that there was a lot of information there that we just went over, but these slides, this presentation is recorded and the slides are housed on the ABLE National Resource Center website, and it just gives you a very brief glimpse into different things. Well, number one, into the fact that ABLE accounts are investment accounts, but two, some of the things that you may want to take into consideration when choosing the right investment option for you. So now I actually want to turn it over to our friend Michael Rausch, who is the director of the Real Economic Impact Network at the National Disability Institute, to talk a little bit about financial capabilities and education and how that can benefit an ABLE account owner and what those are and where the resources are that can be found. So thank you, Michael, for being with us, and we're excited to hear your presentation.
Great. Thank you, Chris, and thank you all so much for allowing me to be here today with you all to share some information with you on financial education, financial capability, as well as financial well-being. Chris provided a great overview on investments and some of those key terms and words that we hear. And those are a part of what we learn in financial education. And oftentimes, I am a financial coach as well as an accredited financial counselor. And as I'm working with individuals and providing technical assistance to states as well as financial coaches and financial counselors, I always share with them that we have to make sure individuals are ABLE ready. It's one thing for us to go and open the account, but we have to make sure that we're ready to be able to effectively manage that account. Do we have the money to save in that account? And how all of those different pieces will allow us to maximize the savings that we do put into our ABLE account that then we are able to use for those qualified disability expenses. So to get us started, I first want to spend a few minutes to define what financial education is, what financial capability is, and what financial well-being is, and how can this all play into allowing an individual to, again, and or their families to maximize their ABLE account. So first of all, financial education. Financial education is the knowledge and skills that I get from a financial education class on how to manage my money, right? And Chris provided us some financial education just now by educating us on the different types of investment accounts. So once I have the knowledge and skills on how to manage my money, then it's important that I put that information into action, into a positive action, to really have that behavior change that allows me to effectively manage my money. And then once I'm able to do that and I take the knowledge and skills, I put it into positive action, then it leads to the positive outcomes. It leads to financial well-being. So let me give you an example here in how this continuum works. So I attend a financial education class or I participate in something online that gives me the knowledge I need on how to create a spending plan. Or some call it a budget. We call it a spending plan. So I learn the importance of a spending plan, how to put a spending plan together, what's included in it. I learn all of that in the financial education class. Then I go home and I put my spending plan together. And my spending plan has my monthly income, whether I get it from wages, public benefit or other resources, and it also includes my expenses. How much money, how much money is going out each month to pay for my living expenses? So as I put my budget or spending plan together, I follow my spending plan. I stick with what I had put on there for the month, for the next month, for the year. Then we know that most likely that is going to lead to financial well-being, the positive outcome where I'm able to achieve the things that I want. And one of the key pieces on this is that when we put our spending plan together, we also want to make sure that we put in the amount of money that we want to save into our ABLE account. Oftentimes, you may not see that as a line item on a spending plan, but it's very important that we include that. So again, financial education is where I get the knowledge and skills. Financial capability is where I put that into positive action, and then financial well-being is that outcome that I achieve. So let's look a little bit deeper at financial education. So as Chris shared, again, some financial education with us on the previous slides. But financial education also includes setting a financial goal. What is that goal that I want to achieve? Maybe it's that I want to save $10,000 in my ABLE account this year. Then how are we going to do that? Also, in financial education, it includes identifying our income and expenses, as I mentioned, planning and maintaining our spending plan, managing our checking and savings services, developing and maintaining good credit. It's also about identifying our wants and needs. And I share this oftentimes, spend some time on this with folks because as we're looking to put our spending plan together and really looking at how much money do I actually have each month to put into my ABLE account, is sometimes we have to step back and really look at what our needs versus our wants are. A need is those items that I need to live. I need a place to live. I need electricity. I need cable. Those are needs. But a want is maybe I don't need to go out to eat 3 times a week. Maybe I don't need to stop at the coffee shop 5 days a week. And those are identified as wants. And so those are other ways that we can work to enhance our enhance the money that we're able to put into our ABLE account as we start to look at those a little bit more. And a few other slides, I'm going to share with you some resources that we have that you can access to put some of these different pieces into action. So financial education. So now that I have the knowledge and skills, now I go to financial capability. And again, this is the application of the knowledge and skills to make informed decision when it comes to one's finances. So an example is I learned how to balance a checkbook in a financial education class, and then I balance my checkbook on a regular basis. I'm putting that knowledge and skills into positive behavior. As Chris talked about the different types of investments, one of the pieces with that is I've learned about it. Now I go back and I can review it a little bit more. I can understand it, and then I could potentially choose which one is the best option for me. And financial capability really is key when we create that behavior change for individuals to be able to put money aside to be able to save money. And finally, financial well-being is what we achieve. Financial well-being is the outcome of combining the knowledge and actions to make positive financial decisions. What we know from financial well-being is that it produces an improved economic future. It increases our long-term planning. It also enhances our employment status, our employment outcomes. It also, studies show, improves our physical and mental health. It provides better choices where we get to live and where we get to work. But one of the key pieces is it gives us a greater level of social, civic, and economic participation. And I think that's really important as we work to achieve financial well-being because it does allow us to participate within the community more, but it also changes the assumptions of the non-disability community that individuals with disabilities are a part of the economic, or are and can be a part of the economic mainstream. So I know this might be a lot of information that you all have received today on the investment sides, and then looking and defining a little bit more on what these terms are to help individuals get ABLE ready. But I also wanted to provide you with some great resources where you can work to enhance your knowledge and skills, put these tools into action to help achieve financial well-being, but ultimately to help get you and individuals ABLE ready, to get you ready to open that ABLE account, to know how to effectively manage that ABLE account, how do you keep track of your expenses, but also how can you maximize the savings that you put into your ABLE account. So you might be wondering, where can I learn more about financial education and who provides it? Well, we provide it at National Disability Institute. You can go to our website at www.realeconomicimpact.org. And we have a variety of tools that are available on our website. We also have a variety of curriculums that are available that have been used to educate individuals on these different topics and how some of these tools and how to incorporate these tools into different programs so that an individual can achieve financial well-being. Another financial education curriculum is FDIC's Money Smart, and I provided the website here that you can go to. It's fdic.gov/consumer/consumer/MoneySmart. And MoneySmart is a free financial education curriculum that is available in a variety of languages, as well as it is an accessible financial education program. They have a youth version, an adult version, a senior version, and they also have a version for those that want to start a small business. They also have podcasts. It's also computer-based learning, and they also have the manuals that you can print out. It provides a variety of diverse topics, anywhere from how to open a bank account all the way up to different types of investment accounts and tax incentives, etc. And for individuals who might have a lower reading level, they could participate and access possibly the young adults version that has some great tools, and some of the activities also are visual activities that individuals can access to help with the knowledge transfer. With the Third Bank being the sponsor today, I would like to share their program, Empower You, and this is their website. And you can go to www.53.com/content/fifth third, NEN, and then /personal, and then go into the financial empowerment curriculum. And they have a variety of financial education resources that are available to access. Also, hands-on banking is another online financial education curriculum that also has a different types set up for diverse audiences. One of the things about hands-on banking is that later this year, there will be some specific pieces that will be put on the hands-on banking financial education program, specifically on ABLE accounts and tips that individuals can access. to enhance their ABLE account. Also, another financial education program is Better Money Habits, and you can access that at www.bettermoneyhabits.com. This online financial education program provides a variety of short videos that allow individuals to understand some different topics. So one of the videos that they have is how to stick to a spending plan for those who don't like to budget. And it's really a great video and provides some tips on how to stick to your spending plan. One thing I'd like to share about Better Money Habits is that later this year, they will be launching a new financial education program specifically for individuals with an intellectual and developmental disability that is specifically on how to create a spending plan, how to create a savings plan, and how to stick with that, which then we hope will lead to maximize the opportunity that individuals save in their ABLE account. So you will be hearing more about each of those in the coming months. The other piece I'd like to share is just want to remind you again to go to our website and check out some of our financial education resources. You know, again, whenever it goes back to starting our ABLE account, it's again about being ABLE ready. And what are the funds and resources that I have to put in my ABLE account to start my ABLE account? And, you know, there are some tips that we can do to decrease our spending, which then can enhance our savings. And some of these very simple tools are like menu planning and shopping list tools that are on our website. And you might think, oh, how can that help me save for my ABLE account, or put extra money in my ABLE account each month? Well, when we look at putting our spending plan together, we know that our food budget is a flexible expense. You know, if I budget $100 a week for food, and I use coupons, I shop on sale, do the sales and things like that, and I got an extra $30 left over, well, that's an extra $30 I could potentially put into my ABLE account. If I do that each week for the month, I have an extra $120 to put in. And you might think, oh, well, that doesn't sound like a lot of money, but over time, that really will build for you to have more money into your savings. So I do want to share with you one more tool or tip that you can access as you work to become ABLE ready. As you're opening your ABLE account, and if you have it open and you want to enhance your savings into it, there's some other tools that you can access. And we have partnered with America Saves. And America Saves is a social marketing campaign that has been proven to help create positive behavior change with individuals when it comes to savings and managing their money. And we've partnered with America Saves, and on the ABLE National Resource Center website, you can take the pledge to save. And basically what this is where you can take the pledge to save. And so let's say that I'm making the pledge to save to contribute $200 a month into my ABLE account. So I can put that in there, and then I can choose what I'm going to save the money for. I can put disability-related expense, and then take the pledge. And as I take that pledge, then what's going to happen is I will receive emails or text messages, you know, each week or on a monthly basis that's going to give me some tips to help me achieve that goal. And one of the things that we've done with America Saves is we created some savings tips and goals that people will get via text message if they take the pledge around ABLE. And ways that you can, little tips that you can put or that you'll receive that could potentially enhance the amount of money that you save in your ABLE account. So this really is a great campaign. If folks are interested in this, I will put my email in the chat box. It's, and you can send me an email. You can also link to this page if you have individuals you're working with that you want them to take the pledge, and then also to get some of those tips. So one last piece to share with you with America Saves and our partnership is that they've done a wonderful job in putting together some great resources, and they allowed us to work with them to put some pieces together specifically for persons with disabilities and their families. And so at their website, americasaves.org, you can go to their website and click on the partner packets, and one of them will take you to this packet on financial wellness for people with disabilities and their families, and it will provide a variety of resources, including resources on ABLE. It will provide some tips as well as savings opportunities that individuals with disabilities can access. So with that, that's just a brief overview of what financial education is, what financial capability is, and how it leads to financial well-being. Again, we believe that as we help individuals open an ABLE account and educate them, we need to make sure that individuals and their families are ABLE ready, to make sure that they have the knowledge and skills that they need to create that spending plan, to create that financial goal, and to put that into action so that they can maximize the amount of money that they do have within their ABLE account. And each of these resources can provide additional knowledge that individuals need to really enhance that opportunity. So with that, I thank you again for the opportunity to share a few words with you today. So Chris, I'll turn it back over to you.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Michael, so much for sharing your expertise with us and helping us better understand how financial education can lead to better outcomes for people with ABLE accounts, and how this education can be directly tailored into helping people with disabilities who are ABLE account owners really maximize the benefits of having this new opportunity to save in many circumstances for the first time. So thank you so much for that. I have a few questions I wanted to pose to our guest panelists and make sure that we're getting their perspectives on some things, because I don't want to miss that opportunity. So I actually want to go ahead and start with Ben and Nate, who are representing Fifth Third Bank, who are actually our sponsors for this week's hashtag Able to Save campaign information and resources. Could you guys just give me or give our audience a little information about Fifth Third Bank and how you guys came about to be involved in the ABLE space?
Sure. Thanks so much, and really appreciate all the great information that Chris and Michael shared. This was, I think, a great webinar, and hopefully everyone got a lot out of it. I know I even learned a few things listening in. Fifth Third actually has been involved in the 529 space for a while, and when ABLE was going through the process of passing federal and then state legislation, we got involved pretty early and realized that there would be a transactional need for customers because of the broad uses of funds that the ABLE legislation allows, and began working on a product that would really enable that capability for participants. So we're really excited to be in 16 state plans at this point, and hopefully growing, and being able to be a part of facilitating the financial empowerment of individuals with disabilities.
That's great. That's great. So when you talk about providing these transactional accounts, you're talking specifically about the option that we had mentioned during the presentation with respect to the FDIC insured checking account. Is that correct?
That's right. So we've developed a checking option that is interest-bearing and allows debit card access to funds in the checking account, as well as check writing or the ability to set up recurring ACHs to pay for recurring expenses out of the checking option. And that checking option is always sheltered by the plan. So while the individuals can access the funds in it directly, it remains part of the plan and sheltered under the program.
Excellent, excellent. So I know that I've heard from a few people that are interested in using ABLE accounts for more frequent expenses that come up, as opposed to maybe keeping the money in there for a long period of time, and they're very interested in the option and very appreciative of having an FDIC-insured checking account option so that they know that their money is extremely secure because they use it on a pretty regular basis, and they're very pleased with being able to access it quickly. And you had mentioned, are these FDIC-insured accounts associated with like a debit card, or how does that work?
It's an FDIC-insured checking account, and the customer has debit card access, so we'll automatically issue a debit card to the owner. There's also the option to purchase checks, to be able to write checks for expenses, or set up one-time or recurring ACHs. Essentially all of the standard functionality of a checking account, but still sheltered in the plan so that a customer doesn't have to take a separate distribution to pay for something or to reimburse themselves for expenses.
Gotcha, gotcha. And just to be clear, you guys have partnered with a number of the state ABLE programs. I just don't want our folks on the phone to be confused thinking that they could walk into a Fifth Third bank and set up an ABLE account.
That's right. In order to access that option, you would have to enroll in one of the state programs that we participate in.
Excellent, excellent. I think that's a good segue to talking to JJ, who's the director of the Illinois ABLE program, of which I believe offers this FDIC insured account. JJ, is that right?
That's correct, Chris. Illinois ABLE is a member of the National ABLE Alliance, which is made up of currently 14 states, plus the District of Columbia. And each of the states in the alliance operates its own individual ABLE program. But by joining together, we have been able to create an a more economical option for the disability community for their savings and investment. And all of the state members or member states in the alliance have access to and are able to offer, I should say, access to a checking account with Fifth Third. So it's a great option, and we see a good portion of individuals who are beginning to open ABLE accounts using that checking option as was described for transactional. And for folks who don't know what we mean when we say transactional, transactional means that you're going to be using the account a lot. You may be putting money in regularly. You also may be taking it out on a regular basis, like every week or even every day for your expenses. That's different from some savings accounts or investment accounts where you might put money in and leave it there for a long time and not pull it out, not withdraw it. So that's what we mean when we say transactional.
Excellent, excellent. So I had talked a little bit, and this is why I really enjoy having somebody that's really, or people that are really on the ground, getting some meat to some of the things that we discuss in these presentations. I went through the fact that ABLE accounts will offer a wide variety of different types of investment options. Now, typically in your experience, and not only in the Illinois program, but I know you follow a lot of the other programs, what do those do those vary with respect to risk? How many options does the Illinois program specifically offer to folks, and what do those look like?
The Illinois program and all of the Alliance members programs offer 6 investment options, and that, again, that investment option in, as was described earlier, a combination of stocks, bonds, money markets. They range from very aggressive, so higher risk, down to conservative, and there are 6 of them. And when you look on the site, you'll get an idea. There are pie charts and a lot of good pictures that help you see how those different choices are structured. And then we have the 7th option for savings and or investment. We typically call it savings, which is the Fifth Third checking account. And so an individual, when you become an account owner, when you open an account, you can choose to put a little bit of your money into some of those different options. I think I saw a question that came up during this hour about, well, can I put a little bit of money into each option? And the answer is yes. You can put a little bit into each of the options so that you diversify. I think that was talked about earlier, what you're saving and investing and how you're spending. So, for example, if I am a family of, I'm parents, let's say, and we've opened an account for a child, who has a disability that requires some ongoing therapy, but we also are planning for his or her future, and we want to make sure that he or she will be able to go to, let's say, a university program for later on in life, that I might choose to put some money into the checking option and use that towards some of the therapeutic expenses we're facing, and over time invest in saving some money for further on down the road for higher education.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I think that reiterates some of the information that we were trying to provide during the presentation in terms of, there's not one one-size-fits-all investment option for every ABLE account owner, but there's several things that an ABLE account owner would want to take into consideration when choosing which is the right investment option for them, or going back to what you just said there, JJ, what combination of different investment options that can be associated with each other is the best fit for them based off of what their projected expenses are in the future, how frequently they would like to have access to the funds, and other factors. So I think that's something that's very important to note. And you're absolutely right. One of the questions was if they could have a combination, and I think it's important again to state that that is allowed in ABLE programs. There's another question. Do all of the investment options have the same investment fees? So, JJ, if you could tell us a little bit about that.
I'm going to answer that in a couple of ways. So when we talk about investment options, do they have the same fees? What you would want to look at is what each state's offering is, and identify there's usually a mix of investment fees. So the fund managers or the funds that you're investing in have some underlying fees that are charged for investing your money for you. And then there are some account management and administrative fees, the cost of keeping the program going and managing all of the details of the program. And different states have different each of their programs has a different fee structure. They're not markedly different from each other in total, but you're not going to get charged each time you put money into your account or each time you pull money out of the account. The fees are assessed quarterly, and they're assessed on the total assets that are in your account, and they do vary state by state. And what I do when I'm trying to understand what the fees might be is I go to the ABLE National Resource Center and look at some of the comparisons that are offered, because that's correct, Chris, right, that the fee structure is provided in there. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, and that's what I've used in the past. So look at the state and look at the fees. There are fees that are charged on the funds themselves that you're investing in, the programs you're investing in, and then there are some administrative fees. And I've had lots of people ask me questions about this, like, why is there a fee? Why is there a fee charged? It's like any product or service that you receive, especially when you're investing your money and saving your money. There are costs associated with offering that program, and that's what those fees cover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And the ABLE National Resource Center has worked hand in hand with all of the ABLE state administrators and working to make sure that those fees are as reasonable as possible. And I think the consensus among the folks that have worked on this is that while we talk about fees a lot, and while there are different types of fees with different types of investment options and maintenance fees and things like that, these accounts are extremely cost-effective and extremely low when compared to really the only other option with respect to being able to save funds while not jeopardizing a person's eligibility for means-tested benefits. Really are things like special needs trusts and pooled trusts, which often are associated with much higher costs associated with those when compared to these ABLE accounts. And these ABLE accounts have really been put in place to make sure that they're as financially accessible to as many people as possible. So I know a lot of work has gone into making sure that that is part of these programs. But I think with that, I think we've gone through the hour. Time has flown. We've gone over an incredible amount of information. For those of you who would like to kind of check out, maybe in a slower pace, the information on here, again, the webinar has been recorded and will be posted on the ABLE National Resource Center website within the next week. I also want to make an announcement about our next webinar, which is the final webinar in our 5-week hashtag Able to Save series. Excuse me. And that is titled Choosing the Right ABLE Program for You, and that's sponsored by our friends at Fidelity Investment. It's taking place Wednesday, August 30th, so a week from today at the same time, 2 p.m. And we're going to be talking about what it actually looks like when a person is physically enrolling into an ABLE account, doing that online, and making suggestions on what types of characteristics a potential ABLE account owner might want to take into consideration when choosing one ABLE account over another. So I encourage folks to register for that webinar. You can find registration information again at our website, www.ablenrc.org. We encourage you to follow us on Facebook and sign up for our email blast through our website to be made sure that you don't miss anything. We're very excited to move into our final week of the campaign, and again, I want to thank Michael, JJ, Ben, and Nate for sharing their time and expertise today during the webinar, and thank you to everybody who signed up and participated. So we will talk to you again 2 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday, August 30th. Thank you all so much. Bye-bye.